From the soulful streets of New Orleans came a boy with a voice far older than his age, Jourdan Blue, a child raised on church choirs and neighborhood stages, where gospel hymns mixed with local theater echoes to shape a musical soul early on. Even as a kid, his performances left people stunned, his voice carrying the weight of someone who lived lifetimes. Teachers whispered about scholarships, neighbors made quiet predictions of stardom, and for a while, the path looked golden. But that melody would soon be drowned out by a far darker rhythm. As adolescence crept in, so did chaos. The boy who once sang about hope in heaven now found himself spiraling into addiction. It wasn't just a bad phase, it was full collapse. By 16, Jourdan was homeless, navigating a world far colder than any stage. He bounced from one couch to another, slept in public restrooms, and faced nights where hunger was the only guarantee. His family life cracked under the pressure, and with each day his voice, once his gift, became silent. No more songs, no more claps, no more light. He became invisible, one of the thousands lost to the streets, unseen by society but seen all too well by the demons he fought alone. For most, that would have been the end of the story. A tragic prodigy swallowed by circumstance. But Jourdan's silence wasn't the end, it was the breath before the second verse. Because deep down, the rhythm hadn't died. It was waiting for the moment he'd sing again, not just for applause, but for his life. At just 18, Jourdan Blue's life came to a brutal standstill. A near-fatal overdose left him collapsing between despair and death, a young man with a pulse fatting faster than his dreams. Paramedics rushed to save him, the sirens cutting through the Louisiana night like a desperate prayer, and somehow, miraculously, he survived. But that survival came with a price: clarity. Jourdan later admitted that in that moment, staring at the ceiling of a hospital room with tubes and monitors keeping him alive, he realized that no one was coming to rescue him. He was the only one who could rewrite his story, and that's exactly what he did. Against every odd, he quit substances cold turkey. No rehab, no luxury detox center, just raw willpower and the guidance of his grandfather, the one man who refused to let him drown in regret. His grandfather became his compass, reminding him that the same fire that could destroy could also purify. Those days were agonizing, sleepless nights, cold sweats, hunger pangs, but also moments of rebirth. He started walking again, one painful step at a time, slowly piecing together a life that addiction had shattered. And while the world wasn't watching, Jourdan was already performing the most courageous act of his career, learning how to stay alive. He didn't know it yet, but that fight for survival would later become the backbone of every song he'd ever sing, every lyric that would make strangers cry. It was the silent prelude to a comeback no one saw coming. When the drugs were gone but the bills weren't, Jourdan Blue found himself on the same streets he once tried to escape, this time not as a lost soul but as a street performer. New Orleans, the city of brass and blues, became both his stage and his test. He sang under flickering streetlights, on Bourbon Street corners sticky with spilled beer and tourist chatter, turning pain into melody. Sometimes he made enough for dinner, sometimes he didn't. But Jourdan wasn't singing for fame anymore, he was singing to stay human. Music became his lifeline, his therapy, his prayer. And just when he thought he was singing alone, life gave him new reason to fight. He became a father. His girlfriend gave birth to their son Jax, and suddenly every note had purpose. Every lyric became a promise whispered to the child he wanted to raise right. Nights when he wanted to give up, he'd imagine Jax's tiny hands and start over. The police sometimes told him to move along, the cold sometimes silenced his voice. Yet he never stopped. Passers-by dropped coins, others recorded him on phones, unknowingly filming the early chapters of a miracle. Because beneath the noise, something was happening. A voice once buried in addiction was rising again, stronger, richer, unstoppable. Then the new year brought terror. January 1st, 2025 became a date forever etched into Jourdan's memory. A sudden attack struck near the very block where he often sang. The chaos unfolded in seconds, sirens, panic, people running for cover. Jourdan wasn't hurt, but the trauma hit deep. It was a sharp reminder that tomorrow is never guaranteed. That night, he stood outside, staring at the empty street where he had once poured out his voice to strangers and decided he couldn't live halfway anymore. If he wanted to make something of his gift, he had to risk everything. That night's fear became fuel. He vowed to chase bigger dreams, not for fame, but for legacy. He didn't want Jax to grow up hearing that his father almost made it. He wanted him to know that he did. The tragedy carved resolve into his heart. It was no longer about surviving, it was about transforming pain into purpose. And though the world didn't notice it, that single decision under the cold New Orleans sky set off a chain of events that would soon lead Jourdan to the biggest stage of his life. Before America's Got Talent, there was another show, American Idol. During the pandemic, a close friend secretly sent one of Jourdan's singing clips to Idol producers. Out of thousands of hopefuls, he got the call. His audition, done over Zoom from a small apartment, was raw but magnetic. He made it through the first rounds, even reaching the showstopper stage, top 60 in the nation. But when the season aired, his performances never appeared. No airtime, no feedback, just silence. His dream had come close enough to touch, only to vanish again. Most would have quit right there, but not Jourdan. Instead, that rejection became rocket fuel. He quit his part-time job and decided to bet everything on his voice. It wasn't glamorous, just grit. There were days with no money, weeks with no direction, but a quiet fire burned inside him. He began uploading clips to social media, connecting with small audiences, refining his tone, and learning what moved people. He wasn't waiting for another invitation, he was building his own path toward one. And when that path finally crossed with America's Got Talent, he was ready in a way only heartbreak can prepare you for. The golden buzzer that changed everything. When Jourdan Blue walked onto the AGT stage in 2025, the audience saw a confident singer. But behind that calm stood years of pain, survival, and defiance. He greeted the judges with humility, sharing fragments of his past, his addiction, homelessness, and the son he sang for. Then as he began break even by the script, something shifted in the air. His voice carried not just melody, but memory, years of broken nights, and fragile hopes folded into every word. Within seconds, the theater fell silent. The crowd wasn't just hearing a song, they were witnessing redemption in real time, and then it happened. Howie Mandel hit the golden buzzer. The confetti exploded. Jourdan dropped to his knees, sobbing, overwhelmed. For the first time in his life, he wasn't invisible. That single moment of light on stage made up for every dark night he had endured. The clip went viral, millions watched, and suddenly, the man who once sang for spare change was trending worldwide. But fame wasn't the reward, it was validation. A sign that his pain had finally found purpose. The golden confetti may have symbolized triumph, but Jourdan's real test came later. During the quarterfinals, he fell violently ill, suffering from food poisoning hours before showtime. Most contestants would have withdrawn. Jourdan refused. Pale, trembling, and sick to his stomach, he walked onto that stage and sang Biblical by Callum Scott like his soul was on fire. The audience didn't know how sick he was until afterward, but Simon Cowell did, and his words said it all. That was incredible, given what you just went through. The performance became another viral moment. He wasn't just a voice now, he was a fighter. By the semifinals, he returned stronger, delivering stargazing with unmatched emotion. Each round revealed a deeper version of Jourdan, a man who was performing for points, but proving to the world that resilience sings louder than perfection. The finale, a rockstar moment and a tour offered. The finale of America's Got Talent Season 20 was nothing short of cinematic. Lights blazed, guest stars filled the stage, and among them Jourdan Blue took the microphone one last time. He performed Golden from the Demon Hunter soundtrack with a blend of fire and finesse that left judges speechless. But then came the night's most surreal twist, his duet with Danny O'Donoghue, the lead singer of the script, the very artist behind Break Even, the song that earned him the golden buzzer. Together, they created a moment that felt almost unreal. Mentor and fan, artist and inspiration side by side. The crowd roared and Jourdan's name echoed long after the lights dimmed. When the results were read and he placed third, he smiled, not out of disappointment, but recognition. Because even before the winner was crowned, Danny offered him a life-changing invitation to join the script on tour. That was the real prize, a stage beyond AGT, a global audience, and a dream reborn in real time. Third place didn't slow Jourdan, it launched him. In the months after AGT, his golden buzzer performance kept spreading online, crossing borders and languages. Followers poured in by the thousands, fans demanded new music, and offers started arriving from producers eager to collaborate. But Jourdan wasn't rushing. He wanted his next steps to be authentic. He began writing original songs, stories about redemption, fatherhood, faith, and second chances. His voice became a symbol for anyone who'd ever been written off. Interviews revealed a man both humble and hungry, still performing on small stages but now under brighter lights. He promised his fans that his next chapter wouldn't be a repeat of the past, it would be evolution. And behind the scenes, with his girlfriend and son beside him, Jourdan was finally living the stability he once only sang about. The trophy wasn't gold, it was purpose. In the end, Jourdan Blue's story isn't about a trophy or a title. It's about proof that broken beginnings can still lead to beautiful endings. He didn't walk away with $1 million prize, but he walked away with something rarer: identity, respect, and legacy. Every performance, every lyric, every tear shed on that stage rewrote his destiny. He's now more than a contestant, he's a voice of resilience, a symbol of survival wrapped in melody. His son will grow up knowing not just that his father sang, but that he fought for his life, for his dream, and for a future that almost never happened. And as the world keeps listening to that raspy, soulful voice born from pain, one truth remains: Jourdan Blue didn't lose on that stage, he arrived.